Welcome, Instagram people. Hello, my good friends at TikTok. I appreciate all of you and hope that you are finding a glorious and magical day today. I hope that you are filling your day with good things, with good things, and that today is the subject that I wish to discuss. Exactly how to take really it's the amount of how much goofing off should you do compared to being how serious you should be about your life. This is always this is the thing that people um, I struggle with because it's like, well, we should be playing and we should be taking stuff seriously, but we need to play so you're not stressed out. But you gotta do stuff, pay the bills. Because if you can't pay the bills, then that stresses you out, and then you can't play. So, but you got to play to be able to not be stressed out, so that you can perform. So it's like I said, the balance. How do you find the balance? Um, I think you've all probably seen the quote by Alan Watts, whom I adore. Alan Watts. I read him quite often, but what I find, excuse me, the quote, of course, is that it's all play. You should you should you should be playing all the time. Stop looking at work and everything else that you're doing as work because you're at play. That's what you should be doing, and I wholeheartedly agree. Um, when we look at work, when we with and look, I've been in jobs that I really disliked. In fact, I got to tell you this story. Um, when myself and Tressa were younger, when we first got married, um, first few years of marriage, of course, I was in the Marine Corps when we first got married, and then when I got out, I started pursuing acting and different things. But what I ended up doing was going into construction because I had my my dad was the sort that if you could fix it yourself, you should, and you should be able to understand how to fix stuff, how to make things. So when I was a kid, I was we worked on cars. I did drywall. I did painting. I did carpentry. We used to build go karts out of wood when we were kids. I mean, we were just always building and creating things. And so I was always able to get a job in working with my hands, doing something. Well, anyway, I got this job at this company in North Carolina building bridges, of all things. It was quite possibly one of the most fascinating jobs I've ever done because I've done big construction. I've done built uh, hotels, houses, all kinds of things. And but this particular job, and the reason I bring this up is that I had a great time. I loved everybody I worked with. My regular crew. It was just fun, and it was every day. It was a different job. It was something unique, and we'd be out on working on piers out on the ocean, or we would be working on bridges, working on freeway overpasses. I mean, it was a big construction company, and it was a lot of fun. But I had to go one week. There was somebody who was had gone on vacation over on another job site, and so they sent me off to go and fill in for that guy at this major project that was going on, building these overpasses. And the part that they were working on were the big columns, that you build, the big concrete columns that hold up the the, the overpass, the bridge or whatever. And it's all concrete. And if you've ever worked with concrete, what it is you build these wire frames out of rebar, right? And you tie all the rebar together so it's all metal, and then you do the form, and then you pour the concrete, and that's how you build these things. Well, anyway, so I was sent to this new job site, and um, it was several miles away from home, so I had to drive out there, and I left with plenty enough time, so I knew I'd get there in time, and I actually got to the job site early, about 30 minutes early, and I wasn't sure where to park or anything. I found a spot. I'm at the right place. The sign showing I'm at the right place. So I'm sitting there, and pretty soon people start showing up. And I thought, well, I'm still pretty early. I'm going to wait. And I see this guy pull in a truck, and it's got the company logo on it. And I'm assuming this guy probably knows what's going on. So it's about 20 minutes before work starts, right? People starting to show up. And so I go up to the guy and I say, hey, I'm new here. I'm from the coast crew. And he starts getting mad at me. Immediately just starts ripping into me, going, you can't check in early. And where are you parked? And I said, no, where I park. You can't park there. It's not parking for regular employees. That's for all management and administration. You need to go move your car. And he's not kind about this at all. I mean, he's not. It's not. Oh, hi, thank you, welcome to the thing. Oh, by the way, this guy was just a complete turd from the get go. I mean, from the first time I meet this guy, he is just a complete idiot, jerk. But I'm a young guy, and I'm just trying to. Okay, all right, what? Okay, I didn't know. Okay, so I moved my car over to the plebes parking. I move the car, and then I come over, and I check in everything, and he says, "Hey." As soon as he sees me, and he doesn't ask me, he tells me everything to do. Right, and he tells me go over to the supply tool trailer and get an air compressor. I'm like, okay, fine. Now, this was one of those job sites where you were not allowed to bring your own tools. Everything that you needed was provided by the company. Everything. So you didn't bring any of your own tools ever. So everything you used had to come from the company. You had to go get it. You had to check it out from the trailer. So I go over to the tool trailer, and it's locked, of course, because the guy who has the keys isn't there yet. So I go, there's no way to get in the trailer. So I go back over there and I say, hey, I don't have a key to the trailer, and it's locked up. And then he gets mad at me and says, what are you trying to get you don't rate to have a key. Why would you have a key? And I'm going, I don't have a key. And then he's getting mad at me for asking for a key. And I'm going, well, I need to get in the trailer. Well, you're not ready to get in the trailer because you don't have a key. And I'm not going to give you a key. I can't believe you're asking me to give you a key. And I'm going, what? Do you want the air compressor or not? And he says, so of course I want the effing air compressor. And I'm like, I'm just sort of confused. I'm like, I can't get the air compressor because the trailer's locked. And then he just starts getting mad at me because he's thinking I'm trying to rip them off by tricking him out of a key. He's like, I'm not an idiot. You're not going to trick me out of giving you a key to the trailer. And I'm like, okay. And then I said, well, I'll just go stand over there until somebody opens the trailer. And he says, well, don't be just standing around. We're not paying you to stand around. Now, this is before work's even started. I'm not even on the clock yet. And I said, I'm like, what is going on here? This is just insane. What is wrong with this person? And so I have to wait. Finally, other people show up, and I meet everybody else on the crew is fantastic. They were wonderful human beings. Very kind, very accommodating. telling me, hey, this is how things work around here. And I told him, hey, he's looking for this air compressor. And they're telling me the air compressor that he's looking for is not here. It's in his office. Okay. All right. Because they know what air compressor he's looking for. So I go walking back over to this guy. Apparently, he's the foreman. He's the guy in charge, as I find out now. He never told me he was in charge. All of a sudden now, they're informing me that that's the guy who's in charge of this whole job site. I'm like, oh, great. I'm off to a good start here. So I go walking back over this guy, and I'm walking up to him. Of course, they don't have the air compressor, and he is just reading me the right act. I mean, he is just yelling at me, calling me all kinds of names. I'm stupid. I'm an idiot. How dare you show up without the air compressor? I told you to go get the air compressor. Now you're here with the air compressor. And then I said, yeah, I talked to them at the trailer, and they said that the air compressor you're looking for is in your office. And he's like, well, why is it in my office? And I said, I don't know. I'm just telling you what they told me. And then he goes into his office and I don't see him. So I'm like, I don't know. Does he want me to stand here? What am I supposed to be doing? And then eventually this other guy comes over, older gentleman. He says, hey, are you Rodney? I'm like, yes. He says, my name's Rufus, which is one of the coolest names ever. I just want you to know. If you ever meet somebody whose name is Rufus, they are a worthwhile human being. At least every Rufus I've ever known was one of the most, this man was just an older Southern gentleman, just amazingly kind and wise and just brilliant individual. He says, hey, you're working with me today. Come on, and I'll get you started. So we go, and we're just tying. All we're doing is just wrapping little wires around the rebar and tightening up with a pair of pliers, dikes as we call them. No intention. That's just what they're called. Don't get mad at me. That's what they're called. They're called dikes. Anyway, so we're twisting the metal and everything's going fine. I'm chatting with him and a couple other guys. We're having a good time. We're joking around. We're working. We're doing our job. Well, as they're going along, we're doing this for a couple hours. Well, then old meanie sorehead comes over, starts yelling, and he wants me to come down and do this. He wants me to do this other project. Okay, and what the project is they poured the cement, these big round, kind of the base of these pillars is they go so get that flat, right, so that when you're building the rest of the pillar, it is on an even level, so it's all straight and everything. So you build this platform, and then you put these anchors in, and then you set all the rebar around it, and so it's nice and firm. And then you build the rebar tower on that, and then you build the form around it, and then you pour the cement. That's how you build these things. And you do it in segments, right? Okay, so it's all tied in. Okay, so this guy hands me a drill bit and a box full of anchors, and he says, it's already marked where these are supposed to go. And here, all you do is drill the hole, clean the hole out, put the anchor in, tighten the anchor, move to the next one. Simple job, simple enough, right? Hands me the drill bit, has the anchors, says, here, do these. There's 3 big ones that need to be done, so that the next, so we can start putting the rebar on those new platforms, because the other ones we're getting ready to pour by the end of the week. So we got to get all these forms set up. So I go and I drill the first hole, and I go to put the anchor in. I realize this hole is too big for this anchor. Wait, it's too big. This is not the right size drill bit for this hole. And so I stick the anchor in there, and it's not tightening up. And so I go talk to Rufus. And I say, Rufus, here, come here. Am I doing this wrong? Because uh, first time working with this particular anchor and everything, and I want to do this correct. So I go to get Rufus. And I said, Rufus, look, this isn't the right size bit, and or am I doing it wrong? Just asking, am I doing this wrong? So he looks and he says, oh no, you got the wrong bit. You got the wrong bit. Or the wrong anchors, but those are the anchors that we're using. So he knew those were the right anchors, but he also knew that was the wrong bit that I was drilling the hole with. And I'm like, okay. So we go over to the tool trailer, and we're looking for the right bit, and they're gone, because these anchors came with, there's an actual bit that's provided by the company that makes the anchors. There's actual bits that come specifically for that anchor. I don't have the right bit. So we go looking for it. We can't find any of them. And that's when the foreman sees this, not on the job site. We're over there goofing off, as he said. And he starts yelling at me because I'm an idiot, because I'm not getting this job done. It's got to get done. If it doesn't get done, we're going to be on schedule, blah, blah, blah. And of course, it's all my fault. The whole thing's going to fall apart. We're going to lose I'm the biggest idiot he's ever had to deal with, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, I don't have the correct bit. We're trying to find the correct bit. And then he says, you dumb, insert whatever word you want. I gave you the right bit. Just go drill the damn holes. And Rufus says, okay, boss. And I'm going, this isn't the right bit. He says, if he says it's the right bit, then it's the right bit. I'm like, okay. And so we go and we drill the rest of those holes, all 3 platforms. Now we went and confirmed with this guy like 3 times. Showed him this is not the right bit, and he told us, or at one point in time, he said, "I went to college, and I got a degree. I'm paid to do the thinking around here. You aren't. Just go do what I told you to do." I'm like, okay. So this is my act of malicious compliance. So I went and drilled out all 3 of the new platforms, all the holes. I stuck all the anchors in, knowing none of them fit. They were it was the wrong size hole. It was wrong. It was wrong. It was all wrong. But he won't listen to me. He wouldn't let me go look for another bit. He said, that's the bit. Just get the damn job done. So I get it done. Well, then, towards the end of the day, he comes over and he starts looking and says, are these things ready to go? And I'm like, oh, absolutely not. And then he starts ripping into me, calling me an idiot, blah, 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 what's wrong? And he starts looking and he realizes they're not tightening up. He says, what'd you do? You can't be whittling the bit around your bit. You've screwed these holes up. No, it's the wrong size bit. And he says, no, it's the same bit we've been using the same size bits we've been using all right. I was like, no, I don't think so. And he just keeps getting madder and madder at me. He says, I'm a complete moron. You're complete income, all kinds of things. Because I've screwed this job up so bad, and they're behind schedule because now they've got to reposition everything. It was a big disaster, huge disaster. But I had proof. I had it wasn't just me and Rufus. There were 6 other guys who I was consoling with about these holes that I was drilling, and they all confirmed I had the wrong bit. But he wouldn't let me go look for this other bit. So it turns out the guy who I was replacing had, for whatever reason, just took all the drill bits with him. All the bits that we needed to do that job, they were in his car for some reason. And he was on vacation. He was gone for a week. And So they figure out what was going on, and so they get the right drill bits, and then we just had to reposition the holes, and we got by the end of the day we got one of them all drilled out, all the anchors in properly. But like I said, this guy's mad at me. So he's telling everybody that I'm an idiot, that I screwed this job up, and he's behind schedule because of this moron. Blah blah blah. Anyway, I got witnesses for me what's going on. Anyway, so my regular foreman, my regular boss, I guess he gets he gets told that I'm a complete disaster and that they all this stuff, and so I and so I'm on the phone with that guy. It's almost the end of the day, and I'm told to come in and talk to the office, and the foreman is just like, "Here, talk to you." He's mad at me. He's there. And so I get on the phone, and the boss is like, "So what's going on?" He goes, "I don't understand this. You're one of the most competent guys I've got. That's why I sent you over there. What's going on?" And so I explained to him while the other guy's sitting in the office. I'm on the phone. This is back before cell phones, people. Just young people, just so you know, So when I do this, it was the old landline phones. So I'm on the phone with this guy with my real boss, and I explained to him my whole day, what was going on in front of this guy, and he's just fuming. I mean, he's just pissed at me, basically ratting him out. So I told him exactly what happened and everything's going on. I said that this guy's yelling and screaming at me for something that he doesn't even know what he's doing, and I'm just doing what I was told. I tried to point out that this was not the right tool. And it was interesting because my boss, is like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Oh, I would rather not work here because if this guy's in charge, I don't want anything to do with him." And he goes, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, I don't want to work with this guy. I dislike him very much." And he goes, "Well, I haven't really got anything for you to do here." I said, "That's fine. I'll sit at home. I would rather sit at home than come and work here for this guy." And so I go. I go back over to talking to Rufus, and he's like, "Oh, sometimes you gotta take him. I mean, yeah, he's difficult to deal with, but sometimes you just gotta do that, Uh, and I said, "Look, Rufus, I respect you. I think you're an amazing gentleman, but I'm not putting up with this guy. I don't need to. I don't think you need to either. I mean, this guy's an idiot." He goes, "Well, he's just out of college. His dad owns the company." And I said, "Oh, okay. Now I get it. Now I get it." But anyway, so the next day I went back to my other job site, and everything's great. I enjoyed working it, and it was just one of those moments in my life. It's like I felt all day long I'm feeling like an idiot because I'm doing something. I'm working on a new project. I don't know anybody. I get there and I'm getting yelled at and screamed at and told that I'm an idiot the whole time. Now I've been through the Marine Corps, so I've been through boot camp. So this guy's not doing anything to me that I haven't experienced before. So I took it all in straight. It was just like, okay. But at the same time, I'm not going to put myself through this. If this guy's going to be like this, I mean, I exposed him for being an idiot, and I knew hanging out with him for the rest of the week it wasn't going to make anything better. It wasn't like he wasn't the sort of person who was going to learn from his mistakes and say, "Oh, I'm very sorry." He just got more heated. He was going to find a way to make it look worse for me, right? But even through all of that, through everything was going on, I was still having fun. to be perfectly honest with you, I was still having fun because, like I said, I hanging out with Rufus and listening to his stories and his life, and then some of the other guys were just joke. Construction could be a lot of fun. I mean, there's some bullies. There's some people with some emotional issues on job sites in construction. There's a lot of abuse, drug abuse issues. I mean, but for the most part, a lot of them are just really great human and really cool dudes and just fun to hang out with. So I was having fun, um, and I enjoyed the job. I didn't enjoy the foreman. I didn't want anything to do with that guy, but I enjoyed the job. And I've always been able to kind of separate personalities and not get bogged down by them. And also, even when I'm in difficult situations, I still take it for what it's worth. I mean, it gotten so ridiculous that I got to the point where I was enjoying getting yelled at because it was so ridiculous that this guy was like this. I was like, I mean, it was like the Karen before the Karen. I mean, it was, the Karen Chads kind of. It was just. He was a horrible boss and a horrible human being. I felt bad for him. I mean, it wasn't like I really hated this guy. I didn't really hate him. I just feel bad for him because I realized also what ended up happening later on. I eventually quit that job and started pursuing acting full time, and I was raising my kids. It was at a point where my wife Tressa was making, because she was in management, and she was making more money than I was, even in construction, and because well, she worked more hours and she just had better benefits and stuff. I mean, I had decent benefits for this company and would have done really well if I'd stayed with them, but wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to pursue acting and stuff, and so I went back to college, and then I was auditioning for stuff, and then uh, but mostly I was just staying home and taking care of my kids. I was a stay at home dad for the most part, and I loved it. That's the that was a joy, just staying home and hanging out with my boys and my little girl. So, but we go back to the question at hand. It was, how do you go about living your life where you can just play, even when you're doing a job that you hate. This is one thing. Like I said, when that I had that experience dealing with that guy, and part of that was carried over from being in the Marine Corps. When you're in Marine Corps boot camp, when you first get there, they're yelling at you continuously. I mean, at least when I went through, because their job is to stress you out all the time, to just constantly stress you out because it breaks you down to where you just are so used to the stress, you're so used to the chaos, that you start to ignore the chaos. You realize the things that aren't important because what's important is getting your job done. And so the craziness of what's going on with drill instructors yelling and screaming at you, and they would single you out, and they would find whatever it was about you and use that against you. Because one of the things that they keyed on. Well, okay, so I'll tell you this. this uh, anyway, I still I still laugh about this every time I think about it. But when Marine Corps boot camp started for me, your first day there, you go. It's an insane thing. You fly in to the airport. They yell and scream at you at your airport. They're yelling and screaming at you all the way on the bus, and then you get off the bus and they're yelling and screaming at you there, and then they go get your hair cut, and they're just constantly yelling at you and calling you names, and and you're hurry up, and you're standing, you're getting your stuff, and they're just stressing you out the whole time. And uh, anyway, so finally, there's a lot of orientation stuff you have to sit through, and there's one time where we're sitting in this big area. All the new guys were all in there. Everybody's in there, and they've got a platform in the middle of this thing. So it's this big um, squad bay. I mean, it was more like an arena, like a basketball court size area that we're all sitting around, and there's this little thing in the middle, and they're getting up there and they're telling us different things that you need to know, kind of thing. And one of them that comes up is a chaplain. A chaplain gets up there, and he's of course the religious. There for all your religious needs, and he's up there and he's talking. He says, "Look, you're going to experience some things that you're going to hear some language that isn't may not be what you're used to, and you're going to experience some hardships. And if you're really having a hard time, you can contact me." And he says, "Hey, is there anybody here who has a problem with any of the language that we're using at boot camp by the drill instructors?" And of course, me, returned. I was a missionary. I had gone to seminary. I thought of myself as a very religious human being, as I still am. And I stood up. I thought, this is my big moment. I stood up. And they go, "What's your problem?" And I explained that I didn't care about the language so much as I didn't appreciate the name of God and Jesus Christ being used in vain. That I would rather they not used God's name in vain. And he says, "Well," he says, "I'm glad that you said that. That shows that you have honor and conviction. But just so you know, you're just going to deal with it because nothing's going to change." So, okay. So I sit down. Well, basically, what I did was I put a big, huge target on myself because what happened from that point on was every drill instructor in the entire company now knew who I was and knew my dislike of that kind of language. And so, guess what happened? Yes, that's right. The language was turned up even more when I was around. Absolutely. They found something that was going to bother me and they turned it up. At least for a couple days. After, I just, it was one of those moments where as soon as I sat down, I was going, okay, that was probably a mistake. And, but it singled me out. And it was kind of funny because I had a gentleman who I knew in boot camp who, when he came to boot camp, he was going to use that opportunity to not go to church anymore because he thought, well, this is perfect. Joining the Marine Corps, nobody expects you to become a religious person. And so he was going to leave. He was just going to stop going to church while I was at boot camp. It was going to be his way to break free from the church. He thought, from going to church. And he said that when I did that, it changed something in him that he realized that he really didn't want to stop going to church. And he kept going. He went to church all through boot camp. In fact, he said he became even more dedicated because of that. And and that it helped him. It helped him get through boot camp. Church was helpful, and but anyway, but getting singled out and then being yelled at quite a bit all through boot camp. I didn't take it personally. In fact, it became funnier to me. I think through boot camp I had a harder time not laughing through it all than anything else. That was my biggest challenge at boot camp, was not laughing all of the time, because it was so funny. Because the drill instructors are hilarious, and I mean absolutely hilarious what they come up with. Because it's such a bizarre situation, where every waking moment is being dictated by somebody else, and so they're having to come and yell and scream at you to wake you up, and and it's kind of funny because the first 3 days are really intense, where they're just constantly on top of you, and then there's still, they kind of establish patterns, and everything kind of settles down after a while. I mean, they're still after you and they're still on you, but slows down a little bit. And a lot of boot camp, I'll be honest with you, it was long stretches of boredom where you're just kind of sitting around waiting for something to happen. But they don't tell you what you're waiting for. That's one thing, is they never say where we're going or what we're doing. We just go there, we stand there, and then we do something. So you never knew when you left the squad bay. You didn't know if you were going to go do drill. You didn't know if you were going to go do an obstacle course. You know, if you were just going to go for a 5-mile run. You had no idea what you were doing ever. I mean, you were just from every moment was just not you. They didn't tell you what was going on. You just, okay, we're all going to go here now, and we go there, and then all of a sudden, the only thing you knew for sure was sometime 3 times a day you were going to go eat. That was it. You knew breakfast, lunch, dinner. You knew at some point in time you were going to get to eat, and that was it. That was the only thing you knew on the schedule. Everything else, you had no idea what we were doing ever. But we would go. Yeah, I mean, you would take off. We would go on a run for 2 miles and then stop and then sit in meetings all day, or we just sit there and listen to them talk about um, fire teams and maneuvers and all kinds of weird stuff. So it was kind of odd, but it was. I remember trying to get in trouble just so that I could have something to do, because they would, if you got in trouble, if you did something they were displeased them, they would do this thing what's called you would get bent, which means that they would just start barking out calisthenics that you were supposed to do. So they like push, so you drop down, you do push-ups, and then sit-ups, and flip around and start doing sit-ups, and then jumping jacks, and do jumping jacks, and do burpees, and do burpees, and then push-ups, and they're saying this real fast, so you're just like up and down, and it was crazy. And at first you didn't want to get bent, but after a while you enjoyed it, because it was physical activity. Most of the time you're sitting right next to all these other people, and you're uncomfortable, and it's like, I'm just gonna start looking around. You weren't allowed to look around, so if you just started looking around and doing stuff you weren't supposed to do, then they would single you out, come over, and make you do push-ups, which was kind of nice. I enjoyed it. Um, People thought, this guy's a screw up. No, I'm just bored, is what was going on. But so if you're going to boot camp, just know that. And you would, it was such a surreal experience, but it was fun. But anyway, so I've been able to carry that throughout almost everything I've ever done in life, is that even when it's bad, I still look at the good part of it, because the bad could be entertaining. So if you're, instead of being upset with life, if you're just allow yourself to be entertained by it, by the insanity of the whole situation that you might find yourself in. So if you're in a situation where you're with difficult people, as we all do, or in a job that you don't enjoy, instead of making yourself miserable all the time, reminding yourself of how miserable you are all the time, how you hate your job. Instead, if you turn your job into play, it's like how more absurd can this get? And then we start looking for more absurdities. You start having a little more fun with it, especially nowadays where you can record it. I mean, we're living in a pretty amazing time. I mean, the fact that I have a little box that allows me to record audio, record video, um, and share all of this instantaneously. Because what I wish that I could have had videotape of that foreman back in North Carolina years ago. I wish I could have been able to videotape all of that and share that with the world because it was so insane that what this guy was. It was crazy. It was absolutely insane, and I wish I could share it with the world. Well, I shared it now, but that is the key to your everyday. How do you play? How do you find that balance? Well, if you take it all as play, and you look at it as all as just a big, silly, insane thing that you get an opportunity to be a part of, uh, it makes it a lot easier. It makes it a whole lot easier if you just take a look at life as just being some sort of a strange, because it really is. It is pretty unique, however we got here. Now, I believe that we were created by God and that He created the circumstances for us to be here. He created this world for us to come and enjoy and be a part of and to find joy and love, but also to experience hardship and experience terrible things. I think that we um, should appreciate that. Now, there's those of you who don't believe in God. Okay, I, I got no problem with you either. But even then, as you go through, the absurdists and the existentialists looking at life, it's still a pretty amazing thing. I mean, whether you believe that we were created by uh, 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 an amazing being who did this for our benefit, or if we're all just a big happy accident. Either way, it's pretty amazing that we're here. Either way, this is pretty extraordinary experience that we're having. And instead of getting upset and hot and bothered about what you're experiencing, you should enjoy it for a while too, because it's all temporary. It's all not going to last. Um, and this is one of the things I see in my comments. Most people are very positive and uplifting. They appreciate the messages that I'm sharing, but you always get these ones who want to tell you how horrible their life is, regardless. Because they can't stand the fact that somebody else is having a good time, and they got to focus on how negative and horrible their life is, and that is really rather odd. I remember having a conversation with a comedian, who a younger guy, and we were talking about. I think we'd started talking about healthcare, and he was telling me about how horrible his life is because he couldn't get proper health care and he couldn't get proper medication and all these things. And so, and I had the feeling that he was just speaking abstractly, that he didn't really have these issues. He was just using medical problems that he couldn't resolve. You know what I mean? So I became concerned for him as a human being because even though we might disagree with how the healthcare system should run, I still cared about him. And so I started asking. I said, "Well, I mean, are you getting the medications you need?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, but they're expensive." I was like, "Oh, okay, I understand that." And we start talking about insurance and different things, and I said, "Look, I don't want to pry too much into your personal life. If you feel like I am, please, I don't want to do this." But we start talking about his personal circumstances, and every time he would propose a problem he was having, I would suggest something he could do to resolve the issue. And he wouldn't listen to me for nothing. He's like, "No, no, no, that won't work. No, they won't do that for me." I mean, every single thing that he proposed, that he said he had a problem with, I was like, "Well, there's other options other than just having the government pay for everything. I mean, there are better options." And I'm not opposed to. Don't misconstrue what I'm trying to say here, but I was trying to point out to him that no one, even if they say they're going to be an all altruistic super system, they're not always going to have your best interest in mind. And but there are people who do care about you and want to help you, and there are options that you have. But he won't listen to any of the options. He won't, and he was having financial problems. He was having all this, and so I'm trying to walk through, and I'm trying to get to know him and get to know his circumstances. And I was offering him suggestions of things he could do to improve his life, to make his life better. And all he wanted, though, was he wanted everything to be provided for him. He didn't want to have to work. He didn't want to have to do anything. He wanted all this stuff for free. I'm going, even if we had a system that provided everything free, it's not going to be free. You're still going to have to work. You're still going to have to do something. I mean, this idea that everything's just going to be perfect and kumbaya, magically everything gives into you. It doesn't work that way anywhere. You have to work. You have to put in effort, and that you always have options. When you decide you don't have options, that's your own problem. That's you've created that problem. Um, and so trying to help this guy, trying to explain to him how to get all this, and he wouldn't listen to me. And I've known a lot of people in my life, when you try to point out that they have options, they refuse to see the options. They refuse to listen to you. They refuse to listen to everything because they want to be miserable. They want someone to fix all their problems. They want somebody to come in, wave a magic wand, and make all their problems go away. Well, it's never going to happen. And what you need to do is understand that you're always in charge. You're always the one making the decisions. Even if the decision is to not make a decision and allow whatever happens, you're still the one who's allowing that to happen. You still have control over something that you're giving control over, and that is what you're ending up doing, and that's what you're causing all your problems in the first place, probably. So, what? Oh, you leaving?
Mm-hmm.
That was my darling wife, Teresa. We'll see you, dear. Have a good day. She's fantastic. If I do want to say this, if, finding a wonderful human being to be with is invaluable. And I understand a lot of younger people are getting into this whole hookup culture because it's easy to be into the hookup culture now, especially with the apps where you can literally just anyway, you can have a big body count, I guess is what I'm saying. As the young people are saying, get a body count. Um, and all I have to say to you is, hey, if you think that that's going to bring you a lot of joy and happiness, I really feel um, sad for you. Because yeah, it's enjoyable having lots of partners, and the variety is exciting and all of that. But when it's all said and done, it's going to leave you empty and unfulfilled. I can assure you. But having one person that you can dedicate your life to and with, who's a partner, who's a friend, that is pure joy. And I could not be more grateful and thankful for my wife and everything she is to me. She's been there through everything. I don't know, right through boot camp. She was all through all the difficulties that we've had in our lives. Man, she's just been amazing, and I love telling everybody about her. So, at any rate, how long we've been going? So I hope that you've gained some perspective today. I said I had that story of my uh, horrible boss that I had for one day. Um, I had that bouncing in my head this morning. I thought I wanted to share. I wanted to share it with you. So I hope that you are finding happiness. I hope that my messages are ringing true to you, and I hope that you are choosing to see that you have more options than you have. I hope that you're seeing that this life is an amazing and beautiful thing, and I hope that you are getting out there and just living your best life, man. You always are in charge. And when you realize that, I did the one video where I say, hey, all your problems, there's a common denominator, and it's you. Well, guess what? Well, the solution to all your problems also has a common denominator. And guess what? It's still you. And as soon as you realize that, your life will be a whole lot better and a whole lot happier. So, with that, my friends, I'm going to start preparing for tomorrow. We'll do this again. You've been amazing. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope that you have a fantastic and magnificent, super freaking awesome day. And appreciate all of you. And that's it. Get out there and have a glorious and spectacular day, my friends.